The whole empire was built at Manchester City for Guardiola, and he has now moved on. And the other thing that was really striking from what he said today was about the charges, and in essence is nothing new. We've heard Khaldoon Al-Mubarak say this before, that he is desperate to talk about the charges from a Manchester City perspective, but even 18 months or so after that hearing concluded, we're still none the wiser as to a ruling from the Premier League. So while we wait, the chairman, the club cannot speak, but there is a promise that as soon as we do get that ruling, which we may still get this summer, we will hear from the Manchester City chairman on the record.
The shadow over the Etihad. The transfer window is traditionally a time of boundless optimism for football's elite, a period where financial might can reshape the landscape of European football in a single afternoon. For Manchester City, a club that has dominated the modern era through a combination of tactical genius and unparalleled financial backing, summers usually mean the arrival of global superstars. However, the current window has brought a starkly different reality, casting a long, dark shadow over the Etihad Stadium as off-field battles finally begin to choke the club's on-field ambitions. At the heart of the current storm is the looming verdict of the Premier League's 115 financial charges. What once felt like a distant bureaucratic skirmish has materialized into a regulatory chokehold, severely restricting City's maneuverability in the market. The Independent Commission's deliberations have frozen the club's traditional strategy of outspending the competition, creating an unprecedented air of vulnerability around the reigning champions. The target, a midfield maestro. With a transitional period underway, Manchester City had identified a sensational midfield target designed to be the crown jewel of their next generation. The club's hierarchy had locked its sights on a dynamic, world-class engine room operator capable of assuming the mantle of control. This marquee target was meant to revitalize a midfield in desperate need of fresh energy, ensuring tactical continuity and elite physical presence for the grueling campaign ahead. Negotiations had initially progressed with the trademark efficiency that fans have come to expect from the City boardroom. Personal terms were whispered to be a formality, and the selling club was preparing for a historic, record-breaking windfall. The player himself was reportedly eager to make the switch, enticed by the prospect of competing for the sport's highest honors under a meticulously designed tactical system. Financial handcuffs tighten. However, the reality of the 115 financial allegations has abruptly slammed the door on the spectacular deal. With potential punishments ranging from historic point deductions to outright expulsion from the top flight, Manchester City's financial directors have been forced to adopt an ultra-conservative stance. The club can no longer operate with the absolute impunity of previous windows, as every major financial outlay is now subjected to intense forensic scrutiny. This forced austerity has left the sensational transfer in a state of sudden paralysis. City's inability to trigger immediate, uninhibited release clauses or offer massive, front-loaded payment structures has ground the deal to a halt. The financial restrictions hitting the club have effectively handcuffed their recruitment department, leaving them unable to cross the finish line for a player they considered completely indispensable. The threat of a bitter hijack. In the cutthroat world of elite football, one club's paralysis is another's golden opportunity. As word of Manchester City's financial hesitation spreads through the European football ecosystem, rival powerhouses are rapidly circling. A high-profile hijack is no longer just a hypothetical threat, it is an active, fast-moving reality as clubs with clean financial slates look to capitalize on City's sudden misfortune. The financial uncertainty surrounding the Etihad has completely shifted the balance of power in this transfer race, opening the door for rival clubs to strike. Elite suitors from across the continent, unburdened by the threat of looming regulatory sanctions, are preparing to swoop in and steal the midfield maestro from right under City's nose. By offering guaranteed financial security and immediate stability, these opportunistic rivals are presenting the player with an incredibly enticing alternative. The prospect of a bitter hijack hangs heavily over Manchester, threatening to inflict a massive psychological blow before a ball is even kicked. A new era of vulnerability. For years, Manchester City seemed entirely untouchable, a footballing juggernaut that could solve any squad deficiency by simply writing a check. Now, the compounding pressure of the 115 charges has exposed a deep, structural vulnerability that rivals are eager to exploit. The club's inability to close out what should have been a straightforward, marquee signing is a glaring signal to the rest of the football world that the tide has officially turned. As the summer days tick away, Manchester City find themselves in an agonizing race against time, trapped between the need to evolve on the pitch and the desperate requirement to defend themselves off it. If their premier midfield target is ultimately hijacked by a rival, it will mark a definitive turning point, proof that the club's off-field legal battles have finally breached the perimeter of the pitch, threatening the very foundation of their sporting dominance. For a deeper dive into how these regulatory battles are reshaping top-tier football, you can watch this analysis on how the 115 charges continue to impact City's squad planning. This video provides a detailed breakdown of the realistic targets Manchester City are forced to pivot toward under their current financial constraints.